Can we see now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just going to the slideshow now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for involving me in this wonderful webinar. And I must admit that it was Dr. Sanjay Kalra who ignited my interest in the subject of endocrine hygiene. When I tried to search the literature and Googled for the subject, I reached the conclusion that Dr. Kalra should be the father of endocrine hygiene in India, if not in the world. So, I think what I would do, I think as Dr. Kalra has mentioned in his paper, endocrine hygiene can have enormous dimensions, and many speakers have alluded to these dimensions. What I would do, I would just very briefly say something about what is a little bit of current hygiene strategy and maybe a peep in the future. The current hygiene strategies, I won't go into the detail because the previous speakers have beautifully alluded to. And this point that I would like to make is that I have tried to classify these strategies as traditional medical hygiene, which others have alluded to, like eating safe food, eating safe drinking water, and masking and hand washing and all those kinds of things, and keeping our mouth, teeth, gums, eyes, nose, etc. clean daily. The second I am naming as modern world hygiene. Third is indoor pollution hygiene. Fourth is emotional and spiritual hygiene. And fifth is keeping the hygiene supplemented by discovering new vaccines, particularly against non-communicable diseases, because endocrine and metabolic diseases are basically NCDs. So I think this all stems out of the fact that hormones are ubiquitous, and they are ubiquitous in presence, ubiquitous in function inside our body. They are all encompassing regulators of our physical, cognitive, emotional, and spiritual functioning. Now, this is strategy one. The point that I'm trying to make is that with regard to the conventional medical hygiene, is still very important, as many speakers have already emphasized on this point. But the point that I'm making here is that many scientists are still trying to find out if there is any link between the infection and the chronic non-communicable diseases, many of which are having endocrine origin. You already know that many endocrine diseases like diabetes and so on have are chronic inflammatory states. Obesity is a chronic inflammatory state. And starting point may be an unidentified infection. The point is that our body is not able to eradicate an infection. So this unidentified infection may be there. Sometimes we can identify, but many times we are not able to identify. And this goes on to the chronic inflammatory state, which breeds diabetes, obesity, and things like that. And the other thing is that we all know that many non-communicable diseases like diabetes can get worsened by any infection. And another disorder called frailty, which has sarcopenia, osteoporosis, and other endocrine abnormalities, can also be greatly aggravated even by a minor infection. And the other thing you already know that hepatitis and HPV, all these are diseases because of bad hygiene. But in the bargain, the vaccines which have been discovered to prevent against these, they have protected us from liver and cervical cancer. It's very well known. And there are, as I said, many scientists are trying to find out, although these are not confirmed, that the link with the infectious diseases, which I have noted down here, type 1 diabetes with enterovirus, obesity with AD36 human adenovirus, dyslipidemia with COVID-19 and severe HIV reported, metabolic syndrome with HCV virus and gut microbiota, and dementia has been identified sometimes with periodontitis due to P. gingivalis. So why I'm making this point is that if we try to establish some link of a non-communicable disease with an infectious etiology, we can at least do away with that disease to a large extent by simple traditional hygienic measures, and we may also try to produce vaccines against them if it has an infectious etiology. The second is the modern world hygiene. Dr. Ritesh Agarwal from Bhubaneswar has made a beautiful presentation about the endocrine disruptors, so I will not go into the detail, but I would only say that if you walk into a mall of a modern city, you will find beautiful shelves lined with cosmetics, perfumes, packaged foods, plastic containers, metal cans containing Coca-Cola and so on, or many other drinks. So I think we have to know, as Dr. Ritesh Agarwal said, that our food from these containers, plastic containers, the endocrine disruptors can leach out into our food. They can leach out from the metal can to our drinks. So they are all to be avoided. And we should speak out. If we have the evidence, we should speak out to the government. We should say that there has to be some manufacturing control of these offending items which has endocrine disruptors. And endocrine disruptors, as Dr. Agarwal said, they can give rise to a lot of disturbance in the hormonal balance and can lead to a variety of diseases. I'm not going to tell you further about this. And last thing that I would like to say, that these perfumes and all kinds of things that we are bringing in our homes, fragrant soaps and antiseptic soaps, a lot of scent, a good smell and all that, what we are bringing, they are adding to the bad dust in our invisible bad dust in our household. And they are also decreasing the quality of indoor air in our house. So that I think, and it makes our breathing quality is poor. So the third is a continuation, the third strategy is a continuation of modern world hygiene, and that is fighting indoor pollution due to its link with chronic inflammatory disease. As you very well know, any pollution is associated with inflammatory diseases like diabetes. I am not naming non-endocrine disease, but many non-endocrine diseases as well. And there is something called sick building syndrome. Many people, especially the senior citizens, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, they are holed up in their houses, and many of them are suffering from mild symptoms of red eye, headache, body pains, and sometimes nose running and things and fatigue. This is sick building syndrome, and when they go out, they feel pleasant, and those symptoms disappear if they have a choice to go out. So this is all because of poor quality of air, which is caused by a number of endocrine disruptors and by many other house dust, which we are not able to see with our naked eyes. So what are the strategies? We observe and continue to observe modern world hygiene, which I showed in the last slide. Proper ventilation, WHO especially emphasized, particularly in the Corona-19 epidemic, this proper ventilation is so important. We should not keep our doors and windows all the time closed. We have to have a ventilation. Some people are using air purified, and if during COVID-19, if there's a real risk of getting sick due to COVID, people are keeping oxygen cylinders and concentrators in their houses, and sometimes to the extent of hoarding, which is of course not desirable. And then the last point that I would like to say something about anti-pollution plants. We should go green. We should go more green. Greenery is very useful for our health, for improving the quality of air. There are 20 odd plants which are supposed to be anti-polluting plants. They have a property of absorbing carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, formaldehyde gas, and emitting oxygen. So improve the quality of air. So keep these plants inside the house, in the veranda, or in the gallery. And out of these 20 plants, I am just showing these 3 plants because these 3 plants were the subject of an investigation by IIT Kanpur, and they found them beneficial for improving the indoor quality of air. This is the 4th strategy, that is about emotional and spiritual hygiene. People have been talking about it quite some time, and I think rightly so, but I would like to supplement that these are hormone mediated. Hormones are controlling not just simply our organic body, they are controlling our psychology, behavior. They have a potential to improve our mood, sleep, quality of life, and in the process, they can mitigate stress and diseases, both endocrine and non-endocrine. The hormones which are of importance, although supposedly important, to what extent science has proved, we do not know. But oxytocin, love hormone, dopamine, feel-good hormone, endorphin, pain reliever hormone, melatonin, sleep hormone, serotonin, as well as by combating the stress hormone cortisol. But how to get these benefits? So these 4 or 5 following sentences are the procedures through which these benefits of emotional and spiritual hygiene can be derived. By spiritualizing, not going into the detail, by socializing, developing relationships, friendliness, bonding, and laughing, by watching Mother Nature, a rising or setting sun and other kind of natural miracles, engaging in physical exercises, especially in group exercises, and even listening to music. And this is my last strategy, a peep into the future to some extent, and that is about non-communicable disease vaccines, the rationale of which I have already explained. These are on the assumption that instead of microbial pathogen, it is the cells, molecules, and proteins associated with NCDs which are targeted by vaccine by stimulating our immune system. As an example for obesity, Bake's surmises that immune system of these fat cells, it regards these fat cells as a threat and attacks them with WBCs. This can be exploited for vaccine production. Research is already on for vaccines for many endocrine-related non-communicable diseases like obesity, type 1 diabetes, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, smoking-related addiction, etc. However, as of now, non-communicable disease vaccines will not be for a population at large, but for NCD patients. Are these the drugs for treatment or in real terms the true vaccines? NCD vaccines are likely to be less efficacious because they are more of biological, they are more of drugs, and they are going to be more expensive when compared to traditional true vaccines against infection. But I think there is a lot of time, future, and on these vaccines one has to invest. So with all these strategies in place, I have tried to start from the history and the traditional hygiene. The whole webinar started with the hygiene, and I have tried to peep into the current and in the future. And with that, I come to my end of presentation with a lot of thanks. And this slide, I just want to explain. I would like to say that the senior citizen population is increasing by leaps and bounds. If we do not do anything, we are going to end up in a great problem from healthcare. And this is what is it. There is a small guy with umbrella because this guy is trying to save himself from the tsunami of older persons which are going to increase and increase and increase in the coming years. Thank you very much for patient listening, and I would look forward to a rich discussion. Thank you.